Hi, this is Mrs. Chavez. Today we're going to be working on the last section of Chapter 26, and this is the section on the 19th century progress. The Industrial Revolution happened because of inventions such as the spinning jenny and the steam engine. By the late 1800s, advances in both industry and technology were occurring faster than ever before. In turn, the demand of growing industry spurred even greater advances in technology. So there was a surge of scientific discovery that pushed the frontiers of knowledge forward during this time. But at the same time, in industrialized countries, economic growth produced many social changes also. In the early 1800s, coal and steam drove the machines of industry. By the late 1800s, new kinds of energy were coming into use. One was gasoline, made from oil, which powered the internal combustion engine. This engine would make the automobile possible. Another kind of energy was electricity. In the 1870s, the electric generator was developed, which produced a current that could power machines. This became extremely important. During his career, Thomas Edison patented more than 1,000 inventions, including the light bulb and the phonograph record player. Early in his career, Edison started a research laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey, and most of his important inventions were developed there with help from other researchers that he employed, such as Lewis Latimer, an African-American inventor. And the idea of a research laboratory may have been Edison's most important invention. Other inventors helped harness electricity to transmit over great distances. For instance, Alexander Graham Bell was a teacher of deaf students who invented the telephone in his spare time. He displayed his device at the Philadelphia Centennial Exposition of 1876. The Italian inventor Guglielmo Marconi used theoretical discoveries about electromagnetic waves to create the first radio in 1895. This device was important because it sent messages using Morse code through the air without the use of wires. Primitive radios soon became standard equipment for ships at sea. In the 1860s, German inventors used a gasoline engine to power a vehicle, the automobile. Automobile technology developed quickly after that, but since early cars were built by hand, they were very expensive. An American mechanic named Henry Ford decided to make cars that were affordable for most people. Ford used standardized interchangeable parts. He also built them on an assembly line, a line of workers who each put in a single piece on unfinished cars as they passed on a moving belt. Assembly line workers could put together an entire Model T Ford in less than 2 hours. When Ford introduced this plain, black, reliable car in 1908, it sold for $850. As his production costs fell, Ford lowered the price. Eventually, it dropped down to less than $300. Other factories adopted Ford's ideas. By 1916, more than 3.5 million cars were traveling around on American roads. It was bicycle mechanics from Dayton, Ohio, named Wilbur and Orville Wright, who solved that age-old battle of flight. On December 17, 1903, they flew a gasoline-powered flying machine at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The longest flight lasted only 59 seconds, but it started the aircraft industry that we know today. The germ theory of disease. This was an important breakthrough in the history of medicine. It was developed by French chemist Louis Pasteur in the mid-1800s. While he was examining the fermentation process of alcohol, Pasteur discovered that it was caused by microscopic organisms that he called bacteria. He also learned that heat killed bacteria. This led him to the development of the pasteurization to kill germs in liquids such as milk. Soon it became clear to Pasteur and others that bacteria also cause diseases. Joseph Lister was a British surgeon, and he read about Pasteur's work, and he thought germs might explain why half of the surgical patients died of infections. So in 1865, he ordered that his surgical wards be kept spotlessly clean. He insisted that wounds be washed in antiseptics or germ-killing liquids. As a result, 85% of Lister's patients started to survive. Other hospitals adopted Lister's methods. Public officials, too, began to understand that cleanliness helped prevent the spread of diseases. Cities began building plumbing and sewage systems and took other steps to improve the public health. And meanwhile, medical researchers developed vaccines or cures for the deadly diseases of the day, such as typhus, typhoid fever, diphtheria, and yellow fever. These advances helped people live longer and healthier lives. So no scientific ideas of modern times actually aroused more controversy than the work of the English naturalist Charles Darwin. The cause of the controversy was Darwin's answer to the question that faced biologists: how can we explain the tremendous variety of plants and animals on Earth? So a widely accepted answer in the 1800s was the idea of a special creation. Every kind of plant and animal had been created by God at the beginning of the world and had remained the same since. Darwin challenged the idea of special creation. Based on his research as a naturalist on the voyage of the HMS Beagle, he developed a theory that all forms of life, including human beings, evolved from earlier living forms that had existed millions of years ago. In 1859, Darwin published his thinking in a book titled On the Origin of the Species by Means of Natural Selection. According to the idea of natural selection, populations tend to grow faster than the food supply, and so they must compete for food. The members of a species that survive are those that are fittest, or best adapted to their environment. These surviving members of species produce offspring that share their advantages. Gradually, over many generations, the species will change, and in this way, new species evolve. So Darwin's idea of change through natural selection came to be called the theory of evolution. Mendel and genetics. Although Darwin said that living things passed on their variations from one generation to the next, he didn't know how they did it. And in the 1850s and 1860s, an Austrian monk named Gregor Mendel discovered that there's a pattern to the way that certain traits are inherited. Although his work was not widely known until the 1900s, Mendel's work began the science of genetics. So this was a period of time also when they made great advances in chemistry and physics. In 1803, the British chemist John Dalton theorized that all matter is made up of tiny particles called atoms. Dalton showed that elements contain only one kind of atom, which has a specific weight. Compounds, on the other hand, contain more than one kind of atom. And in 1869, Dmitry Mendeleev, a Russian chemist, organized a chart on which all of the known elements were arranged in order of weight from the lightest to the heaviest. He left gaps where he predicted that new elements would be discovered. Later, his predictions proved correct. Mendeleev's chart, the periodic table, is still in use today, in high school even. A husband and wife team working in Paris, Marie and Pierre Curie, discovered two of the missing elements, which they named radium and polonium. The elements were found in a mineral called pitchblende that released a powerful form of energy. In 1898, Marie Curie gave this energy the name radioactivity. And in 1903, the Curies shared the Nobel Prize for Physics for their work on radioactivity. In 1911, Marie Curie won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry for the discovery of radium and polonium. Physicists around 1900 continued to unravel the secrets of the atom. Earlier scientists believed that the atom was the smallest particle that existed. A British physicist named Ernest Rutherford suggested that atoms were made up of yet even smaller particles. Each atom, he said, had a nucleus surrounded by one or more particles called electrons. Soon, other physicists such as Max Planck, Niels Bohr, and Albert Einstein were studying the structure and energy of atoms. This was also a period of time when psychology comes into being. Psychology was the exploration of human behavior. The scientific theories of the 1800s prompted scholars to study human society and behavior in a more scientific way. So interest in these fields grew enormously during that century, as global expeditions produced a flood of new discoveries about ancient civilizations and existing world cultures today. This led to the development of modern social sciences such as archaeology, anthropology, and sociology. An important new social science was psychology, the study of the human mind and behavior. The Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov believed that human actions were often unconscious reactions to experiences and could be changed by training. Another pioneer in psychology, the Austrian doctor Sigmund Freud, also believed that the unconscious mind drives how people think and act. In Freud's view, unconscious forces such as suppressed memories, desires, and impulses shape our behavior. He founded a type of therapy called psychoanalysis to deal with psychological conflicts created by these forces. Freud's theories became very influential. However, his idea that the mind was beyond conscious control also shocked many people. The theories of Freud and Pavlov challenged the fundamental idea of the Enlightenment, that reason was supreme. The new ideas about psychology began to shake the 19th century faith that humans could perfect themselves and society through reason. If you look at this chart here that's on the page in front of us here, you can see how the working class people's lives were changed by mass culture. The demand for leisure activities resulted in a variety of new pursuits for people to enjoy their life a little bit more. People went to the music performances, they went to movies, they went to sporting events. A popular leisure activity was a trip to the local music hall. On a typical evening, a music hall might offer a dozen or more different acts. It might feature singers and dancers, comedians, jugglers, magicians, and even acrobats. In the United States, musical variety shows were called vaudeville. Vaudeville acts traveled from town to town, appearing at theaters in each town. During the 1800s, several inventors worked at trying to project moving images. One successful design came from France. Another came from Thomas Edison's laboratory. The earliest motion pictures were black and white and lasted less than a minute. By the early 1900s, filmmakers were producing the first feature films. Movies quickly became big business. By 1910, 5 million Americans attended some 10,000 theaters each day. The European movie industry also experienced similar growth. With time at their disposal, more people began to enjoy sports and outdoor activities. Spectator sports now became entertainment. In the United States, football and baseball soared in popularity. In Europe, the first professional soccer clubs formed and drew huge crowds. Favorite English sports such as cricket spread to the British colonies of Australia, India, and South Africa. As a result of the growing interest in sports, the International Olympic Games began in 1896. They revived that ancient Greek tradition of holding an athletic competition every 4 years. Fittingly, the first modern Olympics took place in Athens, Georgia, the country where the Games had originated.